So my name is Ibtihal Hussein, and I'm working as a talent acquisition team lead at HelloFresh. It's been 2 years and 4 months now with HelloFresh. Yes.
Great stuff. I'm Vanessa, the founder of Girls Talk. And what we do, we connect female talent to jobs.
I'm Julia. I work for Lightspeed. It's a Canadian software company. And I'm a senior talent acquisition partner and the co-chair for a women's ELN for EMEA.
Hi, Lauren. I work at Delivery Hero as a principal recruiter, mostly focused on tech roles, and I've been there for just over 4 years.
Great stuff. So thank you for joining me today on this episode. Super excited to kind of get stuck in and get some of your insights and knowledge as, you know, professionals in the talent space, but also as recruiters and also as women in tech as well in Germany, more specifically in Berlin. So I'm going to just kick off in terms of just setting the scene. You know, we're talking about the state of women in tech in Germany, a little bit more focused on Berlin. You know we need more women in tech. There's a lack of representation of women. So what are your thoughts on this from your expertise, but also as a woman in tech in terms of, you know, what can we do to really address this?
So I think the lack of representation is like a really good keyword. When you've worked, whether you're a man or a woman in such a male-dominated space, you do kind of associate competence with like a certain gender or person. You know, if we were to think about, you know, what does like a tech nerd look like, we'd probably all think of a man in a hoodie programming in his basement, maybe like in the dark, right? Yeah. So I think it's like getting people to kind of rethink like who is the expert, what does an expert look like. I think that's like the educational piece, like in my opinion, is huge, like having more women on interview panels, having more women on teams, just so there's like a shift in mindset of, yeah, you know, who are we looking for and who's actually good at this.
What about yourself, Lauren? What are your thoughts?
Because this is a massive piece and something that we've been trying to have really work on in the last year as well, getting more women in the interviewing process.
Yes.
I think being able to see, someone who is like you is super important. Yeah. And not just about getting right women into the process, but then creating a culture where they do feel like, this is a place that I could work. And I think that culture shift piece is massive. Like one example around language, when people, you're like, what do you want to hire for your team? When people are talking about a hypothetical person, it's he this and he that. And it's like a small thing, but that can really make a big difference. Then you're thinking, okay, what kind of unconscious or conscious bias is coming into the process when we're using this language?
Actually, I agree with both points here. One thing that maybe it's really important to think about when we are looking at the underrepresentation for women in tech is actually the lack of the programs and that integrates women in the tech space. In a recent survey, HelloFresh has conducted on a norm age from 16 to 27 years old. I think 40% showed that they would be really interested to have a tech job because of like employers who will be providing such programs. So I feel that the desire is there, but what we can do in order to integrate them in these tech jobs, because a lot of them will have the desired skills. They have the desire to pursue something in tech, but how we are encouraging them to do so. So focusing on the hiring process is something. Focusing on the programs is another thing. Focusing on the retention, which is something that is usually overlooked, is something else as well.
Yeah, that retention piece, that kind of whole employee life cycle, because we've got in Germany roles that are unfilled, and specifically in tech, right? So it might be even this year between 700,000 to maybe even like 1 million, right, roles, that a labor shortage that we need to fill. So it's like, how can we get women to fill these gaps? But at the same time, why do you think women might not be applying for certain roles in the first place? Or is that a misconception? Do you see a lot of female applicants in your roles?
A decent amount, but we do a lot of direct sourcing.
Okay.
Really to get more women into the process, because we do a lot of talent mapping as well to then when we open a role, see, okay, what is our percentage of women, in the market? And say when I'm looking at maybe something in data science, probably I think in Germany, it's usually about maybe we're seeing 25% of that is women. But yeah, then that piece around getting them in and then keeping them there. Because right, like you said, people, they are interested, but then there's kind of a lot of other barriers there around promotion velocity, and equal pay, I think, is a big challenge in Germany. When we look at the stats, I think it was there's a 17%, 18% pay gap in Germany.
Yeah. So it's all of that as well. And so in terms of women, because even if it's, that when you mentioned around when you sort of talent map and say, for example, data science, you might have a pool of females, 25%. So it's like, we also have that issue around the upskilling piece, so like women actually not sort of having the subjects or the expertise to then make them eligible. And I see this a lot in the work that I do with a lot of companies say that when they're also looking at senior leadership, I don't know if you've had this experience, it's even more challenging, because if you've got a lack of women who are studying sort of tech subject skills, then a lack going in the workforce, it's like then you've got between 5% in that senior leadership. And then a lot of companies have got targets and saying, okay, we want to get more senior women, but it's like, from where? It's so hard. Like, what do you think about that piece?
Actually, this is a fundamental piece, and it's a journey. I think this journey has three pieces in my mind when I look at it. It starts with the personal branding that women has usually. I think being a mentor in different boot camps, it hit me that this is the problem for us as women, that we downplay what we can do. So usually, how is that presented, the online profiles, offline profiles, even the interviews, it is not there. They do have it, but we cannot actually showcase it for some reason. When asking about the project's contribution or something like that, we shy away from saying, I did this, I contributed in this. So this is the first part. The second part is about the attraction. How we are attracting such women in leadership positions. We know that majority of women are caretakers. So what you are actually putting in the market to make them, wanting to be part of that organization. Are we talking about flexible work places or setups, or what other benefits that they can take? So I think this is the second part. And the third part, which is really, really important, that we usually overlook, is how we are retaining them. A lot of women in the first year manager, they are not getting the right help and sponsorship and even mentorship that is needed for them to handle such position with a male dominant space. So
yeah, and I think like now with AI taking over a lot of the very technical tasks and the kind of like the more low level programming, the kind of collaborative skills, the interpersonal skills, like the communication skills, they come into play a lot stronger. So if we look at the future of jobs, even in tech, I do think that women potentially like bring a lot of these skills to the table. They just need to be mentored and channeled in the right direction, and making sure that there is the I would say support, but also like the organizational mindset that we want more women in tech, rather than we want the best person in tech, but then bringing all that bias, what does the best person look like? So it's also around like becoming more open to what does that look like, and hiring for potential. Rather than just, have you done exactly this? And if you haven't done this from here to here, then I'm sorry, you're underqualified.
We need to reduce the barriers to entry, right? And the more criteria we have on there, we are reducing our pool so much. That I think I have seen over the last years that we are moving in the right direction away from, I need someone with a master's in computer science, to go, okay, this person's recently graduated in a 3-month boot camp, like we can bring them in an internship and train them up.
I'm going to move on to another topic, because in terms of the startup scene, so Berlin, I guess specifically, is really become this exciting, ecosystem of startup businesses that have scaled and grown, but also it's becoming a really big European tech hub as well. So obviously you work in Berlin or for companies that are based in Berlin, right? So like, what is it about this tech ecosystem that's really exciting and appealing to you as professionals?
Actually, I think startups have like different benefits to give, since I would say I would look at the size of the teams within tech. So they are not as big and intimidated that as big teams within well-established organizations. So women will be will feel more confident being a part of that. So they will feel visible, presented, and they can actually work with such environments. Flexibility, right? Because startups they come across with this mindset of, we need you just to deliver the work. We don't actually, we don't care you are working 8 hours, 9 hours, or 6 hours. At the end of the day, you are delivering what you have to deliver. And this the flexibility even in the setup, because basically majority of them they agree on more than 50% remote work, which is great as well for women who are caregivers, as we have said. So they come with like really appealing benefits sometimes that women would consider working in such environments, I say.
Because I think the flexibility piece is massive. When we looked at all of our reach outs to women last year, kind of 50% of the people who said no, it was because they wanted fully remote only. So that piece is huge. And I think as well, when you're looking at small startups, maybe that there is more opportunity to have a bigger scope, to learn quicker and then progress quicker compared to, say, some bigger tech companies. I think people see a lot of opportunity with that.
I totally agree with both of you. So the flexibility piece, for me personally also, I think, and for a lot of like international talent in general, like Berlin is one of these places, like it's very diverse, it's very open in comparison to a lot of other cities in Germany. You kind of find like-minded people no matter what you're looking for. There's a lot of like subcultures, and it's also, I think, like a healthy work-life balance in the city, like in comparison to, say, metropolis like London or Paris, or where it's all like, about the grind.
Yeah.
It's very different, and I think like it's appealing to women because there's more to life than to work. So like you said, the startup scene, just offers a lot of flexibility around this, but also the flexibility around the language piece, for example, is very attractive for expats. You don't have to speak German. You can work in a startup, whether it's in tech or in non-tech. I feel like companies here are a lot more open-minded and flexible with a lot of things where maybe like other cities in Germany wouldn't be.
If we talk about targets, and I want to get your expertise from, I guess, a talent attraction point of view, lots of tech firms in Berlin and Germany have set targets to recruit more women. So we've got 17% of women who are working in tech. Everyone is on the same page. We're all aligned. We need to get more women. And lots of companies, I think the sector as a whole, has set targets, right? They want to see that if globally we've got, 51% of women working, a lot of companies want to get as close to 50 as possible. We're still not there yet. So what are your thoughts in terms of, have you seen anything that's helped you sort of shift the dial as recruiters? And what do you think we need to do?
Actually, the piece that you have spoken about, which is going and source and targeted women, is actually the best approach, because a lot of women, they do have that skills. As you have said, the market now is becoming much better when it comes to women talent insight in the market. It's how to find them. This is something that we need actually to target them and source them. Second thing is looking at the attraction process again. So everything from even the job description, how we are writing this now, it should not be very demanding. 10 requirements is not easy to look at and say, maybe I don't fit there. Maybe I can, but I don't fit. So we need to understand how we are including them in every part, how we are using more inclusive languages in our job description today, instead of manpower, for example, or whatever other terms that sometimes you as a woman will just shy away, and I will not be, applying.
The job description point is really a big one. Something, the first thing often people see. There's a website, I think it's called Gender Decoder, where you can put your advert in and then it chooses like, okay, how many masculine words, how many feminine, and kind of gives you a score.
Yeah.
Super helpful. And then on the must-haves as well, women seeing things and go, oh, I don't fit 100% of this criteria. So really coming back and saying, all right, like, what is really necessary? I understand, here's your dream person, but what are the actual must-haves? And what's nice to have, and using those.
Yeah, because I think sometimes what people need to also understand from a candidate perspective is, like you were saying, the must-haves and nice-to-haves, and actually saying to candidates, especially female candidates, you don't have to be the finished product. You're trying to look for your next home for your career to develop. And I'm always having this debate with women in our community. I'm like, just apply for the role. And they're like, I'm not ready yet. I still need to do XY project. And I literally have to sometimes I even force them. I'm like, please, the company do not expect you to be the finished product. But there's still that perception that we have to have had more experience, and I just wish women knew you don't have to.
So actually this happens a lot when I reach out actively to women on LinkedIn. We go for that strategy as well, and you are right as well, that's very effective, reaching out actively and finding women, they're there. But then these type of debates, when I send them the job description, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I really don't see myself in this. And then engaging kind of into a meaningful conversation with them. And like you say, really say, not everything on there is must have.
Exactly.
Give it a try. And I think it's also our role. We're so close to the candidates. We're so close to the market. So as recruiters and as professionals in this field, it's also to a certain extent, we can do a lot to maybe close that gender pay gap, for example, and just say, well, actually, that's the budget. Do not sell yourself short. Or the must-have skills are just the first 3. If that's what you bring to the table, ignore the last 7.
Going from that to Gen Z. I mean, I love Gen Z. I'm their biggest fan. I think they are literally revolutionizing the workplace in terms of just their behaviors and the way that they look at things and their bravery, right? And I feel like as a generation, and I'm trying to be careful not to stereotype, but there's lots of data that shows what's important to them, but they are really shaking the table, right, in terms of these, our traditional type of workplace, right? And they are actually requiring a lot more from employers, I guess, from a well-being perspective, from a work-life balance. They're just going to be very, very interesting to see them progress, but also they're going to be the majority in the workforce. So even I was looking at some data earlier on, they're not the majority yet, so it's still millennials, but by 2030, the Gen Z is going to be majority in the workforce, right? So what are your thoughts on this from, I guess, working in tech from a recruiter lens, talent attraction? How will this change the way that you look for talent, and also the way that companies now have to adapt and sell themselves to this generation if they want to survive, because they're going to be the majority?
What are your thoughts? Actually, I think Gen Z will set the tone for that, because basically I see a lot, and a lot of talents from Gen Z, they know what they want. Look back at our generation. We weren't doing anything, actually. If you say you work from 9 till 6 and over hours on call, we are there. But for them, no, actually. Work is work, life is life. I need something that is providing this to me. And looking at the talent insights in 30 years or 20 years from now, if they are going to be there, less actually than 10 years.
Keep it up.
They will set the tone for the employers, how actually to provide more flexibility in their workplaces.
I'm super excited that they are going to shake things up. They're like, no, we're not doing what those people did. I think they're looking for, I guess, a lot more meaning and value, and a company that is making the world a better place. So I think when companies are pink washing or queer washing, or they're just changing, it's Pride Month, let's put a rainbow here, but then they're not actually supporting and contributing to that community, kind of outside and inside the organization. I think especially Jen said, you know, they see right through this. They're looking for a company that is doing this because it's in their DNA.
And they don't just see through it, they actually like speak out on it. And I think that's what our generation didn't do. Like I really can't wait like for this world at the workplace where people are like, that was a microaggression.
Yes.
Can we please can we get together and talk about it? What exactly happened here?
Yeah.
You know, and we were just we saw it. I think we saw it as women, like we saw it, but we did not talk about it.
Yes.
We learned to move on and, you know, just be the good girls we were taught to be.
Yeah.
And get on with it and maybe even question ourselves, oh, am I too sensitive? Maybe it was nothing. And I think Gen Z is about to break this stereotype, and for women especially, and I think it's amazing.
Thinking about Gen Z, and I guess the future of the workplace, I think this generation also coming up, they need, I guess, support in terms of identifying what skills are going to matter to employers. If we think about, we're in 2024 now, by 2034, as recruiters, is there any kind of perspectives or insights you can give around like what skills are going to matter to employers in the next maybe 10 years or so?
I think, surprise, surprise, AI. AI is going to be the trend for the next couple of years. So I think anything around machine learning, data science, AI would be really beneficial for the industry, and these skills should be something that they are looking at. Of course, programming will stay in the scene. Definitely, it's going to be there. How they are brushing off their programming skills as well. But I think the orientation is more to that machine learning, data science, and AI in general.
Absolutely. A lot of my hiring is in the data space, and then it's crazy to see all the applications of data science and how much like our data is being used. And this is only going to get bigger, and then companies using this great data to make decisions. So yeah, especially in the AI space. And even if you're not directly working in AI, I think people need to be able to understand how to use it to optimize what you're doing in your work, save time. Then really on the other side, people being adaptable and flexible, I think will be super important as things change so quickly.
I totally agree. And the question I think for the recruitment process then is also like, how do we check for AI skills? Like, are people really able to deal with AI? And the more advanced it also gets, like from like a machine learning perspective and what's possible with data, like obviously also like the kind of like ethics around it, like, you know, who's in charge of that, and like, but it's definitely the future.
So I think in terms of, if we look to the future of tech, specifically in the German ecosystem, tech ecosystem, what do you think it will look like? And I know it's really hard, or sometimes it can be hard to like envision this, but if you're thinking about, okay, what, you know, where are we going to be in 2034? What do you think it will look like for us?
This is a very, very good question. Actually, I think Berlin will continue to grow as a huge tech hub. At the moment, we see it's there on the talent attraction piece for international talents. I guess the adaptation of different technologies, high tech, actually would be something as well happening in the next few years. But yeah, this Berlin will continue to grow as a tech hub, definitely.
Coming up to the end of the conversation, do you have any kind of final thoughts or anything that you wanted to kind of just share around, you know, what we're talking about in terms of that talent attraction piece, women in tech, before we close? Any sort of final thoughts?
Yeah, I would combine attraction and retention, to be very honest. I would start with the retention and go to the attraction, because if it's not there in the workplace, you cannot attract the right women to be part of your organization. So I would always say assess. Usually there should be a checklist saying, yeah, we do have this, we do have this, we do have this, we don't have this, we have to do that. So doubling down on the education for the stakeholders to accommodate more women in the workplace, making sure that we do have all the benefits that are needed to attract those women now in the market, and go to them. So basically, sourcing actively for passive talents, women talents in the market, arrange for different meetups where they can come to your organization and see what is it like to be part of your organization as well. So yeah, I think it's a journey. Takes a whole village, but it is going to be really beneficial to attract women from different parts of tech world today.
In that retention piece.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, that it's just such a big puzzle. There are absolutely so many pieces coming into it, and we really need to be looking at all of them, which means, yeah, it is a village. You kind of need all parts of the organization involved. And then we really need the support of the C-suite, of senior leaders, and then that helps cascade it down as well. So really getting sponsors and people on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like, moving forward when it comes to attraction, I totally agree. Like what the organization looks like inside is super important. But when it comes to attraction, maybe also think out of the box and not rely on these kind of traditional ways to attract talent. Like, find out where's your target group and maybe engage with them in a meaningful way there. Like, I just remember a few years ago, I went to an Afrobeats festival, like here in Berlin, and Zalando was there.
Yes. Yeah. And you're like, what?
I was like, this is really good, like employer branding. It's really good for TA. It's like, if you're looking for people of color or for women of color or whatever it is, that's where they are. So it's super outside of the box, and I think that's what we need. It can't just be, okay, your KPIs are very kind of like output focused. You just have to kind of bring in the talent. It's like, how can we strategically kind of like get out there and engage with the talent to put our name on the map?
Thank you all for your contributions. Really great chat, so thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.